All right, let's get this started. Hello. I'd like to talk with you for a moment about some of the props that I have to do my yoga routine before we get into the actual routine. I always like to have a canvas strap. That's an absolute must for me. I also really like to have a couple sizes of yoga blocks. So I prefer to have two sizes and usually like two, at least two of one size. And then I also want to have a few pillows, different sizes. I like them small. And I personally like to have two bolsters. I like to have a large bolster and a smaller bolster. The supports are used to allow maximum relaxation in a restorative practice. And what we'll be doing is a restorative yin type of practice. Also, the blocks are generally utilized to sort of like bring the ground closer to you. So we're going to start in Savasana, just laying down in corpse pose. It's really important to know what your comfort level is with your yoga routine and to not push yourself too hard, especially in yin yoga because you hold the poses for longer. So it's important not to stretch and stress to your ability, to the extent of your ability, but just to kind of back off a little bit from that edge. So we'll start in Savasana, setting our intentions for today's practice, focusing on what you want to bring into your life and what you're needing to let go of, and how you will create the space to allow this change and shift. Relax into your Savasana while setting your intentions. Continuing your Savasana while allowing yourself to let go of all of your stress, concerns, and worries. Let go of your stress from today, your stress from the week, the month, the entire year. Just allow yourself to be stress-free. And then slowly rotate your head and neck to the right, taking a deep breath. Then rotate the head and neck back to neutral. And then to the left for another deep breath. And then back to neutral. And now you can stretch out long, reaching your hands over your head, pointing your toes. You can rotate your ankles. And then we're going to hug in the right knee, keeping the left knee down on the mat. Continue hugging that right knee tightly for several breaths. You have an option to engage the foot, flexing your heel, rotating your ankle, pointing your toes. As you continue hugging that knee, you can pay close attention to the micro movements and to the compression in your right hip socket. And then you can reach for your strap, getting the canvas to go across the ball of your right foot. And then straighten out that right leg. You can have the knee bent slightly if you wish. Maybe pull that leg slightly closer to your chest before then swinging the leg out to the right while continuing to hold the strap for this half straddle. Hold it there for a couple of deep breaths. And then while releasing your right leg back down to the mat, you can set the strap aside, lowering that right leg down to the mat. Both hands overhead again, stretching out long once more, pointing the toes, rotating the ankles before then hugging in your left knee, keeping your right leg on the mat, continuing to hug that left knee tightly. Again, you can engage the foot and the ankle by flexing and pointing your toes, rotating that ankle. Continue hugging the left knee, again while paying attention to the micro movements and focusing on the compression in your left hip socket. And then you're going to pick up your strap once more, placing that canvas across the ball of the left foot. Straighten out that leg and hold it there. You can have a slight bend in the knee if you wish. And then you might pull the leg just a little closer to your chest. And then swinging that left leg out to the left side with the strap for that half straddle. This is a big stretch. We're going to hold this for several breaths. And then lowering that leg back down to the mat, you can place the strap to the side. Both legs are out straight again, stretching out long, arms up overhead. And then we're going to hug in both knees tightly. Continue holding your right knee while lowering your left leg back down to the mat. Hold that knee there before carefully placing the right knee onto the floor on the left side of your body, or onto a bolster or prop if you like. For the supine twist, your arms are in a T. Keep your glance out over your right fingertips, staying in the supine twist. You have an option to use your left hand to apply light pressure to your right knee if you wish. Enjoy the stretch. Focus on the release in the small of your back. Just breathe into it. And then slowly you can turn your head to look the opposite direction for 2 full breaths. Then slowly turn your head and neck back to the right, relaxing your gaze over your right fingertips again. And then back to neutral. Lower your right leg back down to the floor, hugging in both of your knees together again. Your head and neck towards the knees, rocking and rolling. And then lowering your right leg back down to the floor while continuing to hug your left knee tightly. And hold it there. Then when you're ready, you can move that left knee across your body to place onto the floor on the right side of yourself or onto a bolster. Again, your arms are in a T. Enjoy this supine twist. You can keep your gaze out over your left fingertips. You have that option with your right hand to apply the light pressure to the left knee at any point if you wish. Just really relaxing into this twist. Breathe deep. And then slowly turn your head to the right, to the opposite direction. Holding that for a couple of breaths. Then you can slowly turn your head to neutral and then back over to the left. Then you're going to lower that left leg back down to the mat as you come out of this twist, stretching your arms out long overhead again. And then once more, we'll hug in both knees tightly, stretching your neck, getting your forehead towards your knees, rotating both ankles, engaging your feet, flexing your heels, pointing the toes. And then we're going to get into the reclined butterfly. You may want to utilize props under your knees or thighs. Feet together. Arms are down by your sides. Hands are facing up. Surrender to your practice. And then glide your arms out wide to the sides, across the floor, arching them overhead into a reclined half moon, and then holding your hands together into a steeple grip. Hold it there before then gliding your arms back down to your sides like butterfly wings. Hands or palms are facing up. Slowly stretching your arms out to your sides again, and then bringing them back up overhead, touching the fingertips to each other in prayer hands. With your arms overhead outstretched, you can keep your fingers and thumbs touching lightly, or you can have them in steeple grip while remaining in the reclined butterfly pose. And here you can remove any props you might be using before we get into a reclined tree pose. First, straighten out your left leg while placing the sole of your right foot against the inseam of your left thigh as high as you can. Hands are still overhead in prayer hands, steeple grip, or yogi's choice. Hold for several breaths. And then simply switch sides by first straightening out your right leg and then placing the sole of your left foot high to the inseam of your right thigh. Arms can still be in prayer hands overhead or branching your arms out, goalpost arms, steeple grip, however you're most comfortable. Now reach for your canvas strap, get it across the balls of both of your feet for legs up the wall. Your knees can be straight or slightly bent. You can pedal your knees, you can rock, you can wiggle, anything you wish. Continue to keep your left foot in the strap, keeping the canvas across the ball of your foot while you remove your right foot and place that right ankle across your left thigh for reclined pigeon. Holding that there, you can bend your left knee slightly, or you can keep it straightened, or some of each, straightening and bending. And then we will switch out our feet, getting your right foot back into that strap, then remove your left foot, placing the left foot across your right thigh for the reclining pigeon on the other side. Enjoy this stretch. Again, you have an option to bend the knee slightly, straightening it, or some of both. And then coming out of this, we're going to lay flat, set the strap aside. We're going to do 3 honey bumblebee breaths. Close your eyes, laying your 3 fingers on top of your eyes. Your thumbs are on your ear cartilage. Pressing the thumb down on the tragus, closing off the airway to the ears. We're going to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, humming low pitch 3 times on the exhale. And when we're done, get ready to turn yourself over, slowly and gently turning yourself to the left or to the right, flipping over to lay prone onto your front side. You can rest your head on your hands, laying on top of each other. Then we're going to come up onto your elbows and forearms into Sphinx. Hiking up the right knee out to the side with your right arm out in front of you. With your left arm, you can thread the needle. Make any adjustments for this pose that you need to as you get into the supine twist once again. And again, you might want to use a bolster or a prop to support your knee. You can straighten out both of your arms, trying to lay your shoulders flat on the ground, arms in a T. Keeping your gaze out over your right fingertips. And again, at any point, you can use the left hand to apply a light pressure to your right knee. Notice the difference from the last supine twist, having gotten into the pose from an entirely different series of prompts and directives. Also pay attention to the similarities along with those differences. Relax into that supine twist. And when you're ready to come out of the twist, lay prone on your front side again, resting your head on your hands once more, laying them on top of one another for several breaths. Then you can bend your knees, lifting your feet into the air and windshield wipering the feet and calves back and forth. Before then slowing that down, lowering the feet back down to the mat, and then coming back up onto your forearms and elbows and hands into the Sphinx pose once more, hiking your left knee up to the left side. With your left arm out in front of you, thread your right arm through the needle, shifting into the spine twist again. Same as the other side, you can adjust yourself so that both shoulders and arms are flat on the ground in a T. And again, you have the option to apply a light pressure with your right hand on your left knee, keeping your drishti out over your left shoulder and fingertips. Relaxing into this twist. Again, noticing any similarities or differences from the first supine twist, and even just from the other side. And then as you are done, you can unwind, resting your head on your hands again. This time in an exaggerated motion, really windshield wiper those feet and knees, loosening the hips out too. And then lower the feet back down to the ground before sending your hips back towards your feet, getting into a wide knee child's pose. You can use a block or a bolster or a pillow to rest your head or torso on. Gonna hold this position, really relaxing the torso, ragdolling the upper portion of your body. Allow gravity to do its work. Trusting that gravity will take care of you, keep you safe. And then when we're done with this, remove the prop if you have one. Coming into a tabletop momentarily before getting back into Sphinx. Coming up on the elbows and the forearms again, this time spreading your hands and your fingers out as wide as you can. Holding that Sphinx pose tall, before then turning your right forearm to be parallel with the top of your mat. Reach back with your left hand for your left foot. Hold this half bow pose for several breaths. And then you can take a minute here to attempt the full bow, getting each of your feet into each of your hands. You may want to use the strap so that you can get your feet into your hands. Whatever it is you need to do to get into this full bow shape. If you can, if it's too much, just do what you're comfortable with. knowing that your level of flexibility varies from day to day. If you have someone nearby, you can ask for assistance getting each of your feet into each of your hands. And then if you're in the bow, you can use your breath and diaphragm to rock yourself back and forth, or you can remain still, or some of each. Then as you let go, rest your head back onto your hands again, one hand on top of the other, and windshield wipering the feet once more, really loosening those hips out again. And slowing that down, lowering the feet back down to the floor. And then the same thing to the other side, coming back into Sphinx, stretching your hands and fingers out as wide as you can, sitting tall, and then turning your left forearm to be parallel with the top of your mat, reaching with your right hand back to hold your right foot. Enjoy this half bow for several breaths. And then just like on the other side, attempt the full bow if it's in your practice. Again, you can use the strap, you can have someone spot you, whatever it is you need to support this challenge of full bow. I usually use one foot to help push the other foot into the other hand. Again, it varies daily. And again, you can use your breath and your diaphragm to rock back and forth. You can remain still or some of each. And when you let go, lower both of your feet back down to the mat, sending your hips back to sit on your feet into child's pose. While sitting on your feet, you can rest your head on a block. We're going to be here for a prolonged period. Deep breaths, ragdolling that torso. And then you can walk your fingers or slide your hands to reach to the right edge of your mat, reaching for the upper right corner. Feel that stretch across your lower left ribs. And then you can walk those fingers back to neutral or slide your hands. And then slide or walk your hands and fingers over to the left edge of the mat, reaching towards the upper left corner, focusing on that extension of the lower right ribs. Holding that for several breaths before gliding back to neutral. Leaning into this. Really ragdoll that torso. And then slowly push yourself up with your hands on the mat, coming into a lightning bolt hero's pose. You may want a block under your bum. You can place your hands on your thighs, remaining still, noticing the challenge of this seemingly easy pose. Then you can get your hands into prayer hands over heart. You can slowly rise those prayer hands up overhead, then slowly lowering them back down to hands over heart before placing your hands back onto your thighs again. And then you can come up onto your knees into a widened stance, reaching your arms behind you, getting your hands and fingers into a bind. You might want to explore the limits of your flexibility with this, trying to lift your arms up behind you, maybe leaning back, arching your back slightly. You can even bend forward with your forehead on the mat in front of you, stretching your arms out over your back towards the floor. And then we'll come back up and release the hands. We'll get into a camel pose, leaning back, arching your torso, maybe holding blocks or using a bolster across the backs of your feet or ankles. Explore this chest opening stretch. It's a nice heart opener. And then as you come out of this shape, you can sit back onto your feet into the hero's pose once again, focusing on your breath. And when you're ready, swing your legs around out in front of yourself for staff pose. You can stack the pillows and props on top of your thighs so that you can ragdoll the upper portion of your body over your legs, resting your torso on the props. Alternatively, you can use the strap on the balls of your feet for the same type of effect here. We're going to relax into this for an extended period, really leaning into it. Envision tilting your hips towards your feet, towards your toes. Again, allow gravity to do the work for you, focusing on easing your weight forward, trusting that gravitational pull to completely support you, keep you safe, and protect you. Then when we're done, we're going to remove the props, setting them aside. Then get your left leg stretched out long, bending the right knee and bringing the right foot up high to the inseam of your left thigh. Reaching for your left toes in a side bend, breathing into this stretch. Focus on relaxing into it. Maybe reaching your right hand over your left hand and over your toes. And then as you come up to neutral, we'll get into a wide straddle stretch, leaning forward for a couple of deep, intentional breaths. Maybe using your blocks. And then slowly transitioning, switching it out to the other side, placing your left foot to the inner right thigh with your right leg out straight. Reach for the right toes in a side bend. Left hand is over the right hand and foot. Focusing on your breath, and again, trusting gravity to do its magic, supporting you, keeping you safe. And then coming back up to neutral, stretch out both legs wide for the straddle again, leaning forward, reaching out in front of yourself, maybe resting your forearms and forehead on a couple of blocks. Focus on leaning into it. Allow the weight of your head to be fully supported if it's on a block. Trusting the prop, trusting the gravitational pull. And then we're going to come out of this, getting into a seated butterfly, holding the soles of your feet together with both hands, pushing your knees towards the floor, sitting up tall before mindfully bending your head and neck slowly towards your feet. And then slowly, gently rising your head back up to neutral, imagining a string above your head, pulling it straight up in perfect posture. And then twisting your head slowly from side to side, first to the right, and then neutral, and then to the left, and then back to neutral. Now you can stretch your neck down again, slowly rolling it out in small movements at first. You can turn your head back and forth like you're indicating a no. Stretch your neck diagonally, bending it from side to side. If you want, you can move your head up and down as if acknowledging a yes. And if it's in your practice, you can do a full circle rotation in one direction and then a full circle rotation in the other direction. And then bring your head back to neutral before shifting into easy pose. Touching down to the ground with your left fingertips, you can drop your right ear to your right shoulder. You have an option here to use a light pressure with your right fingertips on the top of your skull. If you want, you can move your head and neck slightly back and forth to gently massage out your neck muscles. And then releasing your head and neck back to neutral. Reach with your right fingers towards the ground while dropping your left ear towards your left shoulder. And again, with that slight pressure with your left fingertips, if you wish, moving the head and the neck slightly back and forth, massaging those neck muscles. And then back to neutral. Again, turn your head slowly to the right. And then back to neutral. And then slowly to the left. and then back to neutral. And now we're going to bring ourselves into that wide straddle again, leaning forward. You may want to use the blocks in front of you to rest your forehead on again, as we will remain in this stretch for an extended period. Focus on your breath, filling your lungs with fresh air, then releasing the air from your lungs before filling them once again with clean new air. Appreciating the oxygen traveling in your bloodstream to your muscles as you relax into this stretch. Really leaning into it. Then you can pick up a block into each of your hands, reaching over your left foot. Place the blocks on either side of your foot. You can rest your hands on each of the blocks, or you can reach for your toes. Allow gravity to assist in your effort, making this side stretch almost effortless. And then pick up those blocks, place them out in front of you again, leaning forward for a deep breath. Before then picking them back up and placing them on either side of the right foot. Again, you can reach for your toes, or you can rest your hands on the blocks. Breathing deeply and allowing gravity to work its magic. After letting go of all of your stress, then come back to neutral. Set the blocks aside. Our next pose will be bending our right knee over our left leg that's extended out straight. Twisting to the right, gazing to the back of the room. Your right hand or fist is on the floor behind you. Your arm is supporting the weight of your torso. Using your left elbow to leverage on the right knee. Really feel the power of this twist. Before slowly turning your gaze to the front of the room. And again, slowly returning your gaze to the back of the room, all while leveraging that left elbow on the right knee. And then coming out of this twist, we're simply going to switch sides, bending the left knee over the right leg extended out straight. Left hand or fist on the floor behind you, gazing over your left shoulder towards the back of the room, leveraging your right arm against the left knee. And then slowly turning the gaze over your right shoulder to the front of the room. Slowly returning your drishti to the back of the room over your left shoulder again. Continuing to leverage that right elbow on the left knee. back to neutral. Next, we will hold the soles of our feet together again into the butterfly, pressing the knees down towards the floor, sitting up tall, and then slowly and carefully bending your head and neck towards your feet. Then again, imagine that string being pulled from above, from the top of your head, coming back into sitting up tall, gently turning your head to the right, back to neutral, carefully to the left, and then back to neutral. And then we're going to get our legs into cow face, preparing for Lord of the Fish. First, we're going to bend the right knee over the left knee that's also bent, stacking them on top of one another for cow face. Holding each of your feet in each of your hands. You can use your thumbs to press into the arches of your feet, giving yourself a nice little foot massage if you like, while sitting up tall. Then turning all the way to the right with your right arm and back, your left elbow leveraging against the right knee. Looking to the back of the room, appreciating the power of this twist. Slowly turning your head to the opposite side. Carefully looking out over the left shoulder, and then slowly and carefully back again to be looking out over your right shoulder, and then back to neutral. Now you can straighten your legs out in front of yourself for a staff pose, reaching your arms out wide to the sides, arching them in a half moon up towards the sky, interlacing your hands and fingers, and then turning them outward as you reach up as tall as you can. Then you can bend forward slowly while reaching for your toes. Notice any tightness in your back loosening before then coming back up to neutral. And now preparing to switch the legs for cow face on the other side. Your left knee goes over your right bent knee, holding your feet with each of your hands. And again, massaging the thumbs into the arches of each foot for a moment as you're sitting up tall. Before then, twisting to your left, right arm leveraging against the left knee, looking out over the right shoulder to the back of the room. Continuing to leverage with that right elbow on your left knee, and then turning the gaze to be looking out to the front of the room over your right shoulder, and then slowly returning your gaze to look out over the left shoulder again. And then head and neck back to neutral. Come out of this twist, returning to staff pose, reaching your arms out wide, your legs are out in front of yourself, making that half moon arch, touching your hands overhead for steeple grip. reaching tall. And then we're going to lean forward towards your toes. Notice if you have any more or less tension in your back than you did a minute ago when you did the same stretch. Then as you come up to neutral, you can transition into easy pose, reaching your arms out wide to the sides, then up overhead for the half moon arch, touching your hands together for prayer hands, before then getting into cactus arms, preparing for eagle arms with your right elbow over the left elbow, holding your hands together, pushing your elbows slightly up, bending your head and neck slightly down. You can remain in this position, or you have an option to slowly look up as high as possible, leaning your head back slightly while pushing your eagle arms towards the sky. As you do, your arms will unpretzel, and then you can reach them back out wide, touching hands down to the ground, and then arching them back up overhead into another half moon, touching hands together overhead lightly for prayer hands, back to cactus, and then eagle arms again, this time with the left elbow over the right elbow. Hands together, pushing the elbows slightly up, bending the neck and head down slightly. You can hold that here, or again, you have an option to slowly look up as high as possible, leaning your head back slightly, pushing your elbows and arms up as they unpretzel, and then stretching the arms out wide to the sides, again touching the earth, and then lifting them back up, reaching out wide, bringing them overhead in another half moon arch to steeple grip, sitting tall, and then a simple twist to the right as you lower your arms down. Your right hand is behind you, your left hand is on your right knee, lifting your right arm up high over the left arm, reaching for the left knee with the right hand. Left hand goes onto the floor behind you, before then raising that right arm up high, your left arm up high, reaching over your right arm to hold your right knee, before then coming back to neutral. Hug your knees lightly in this basket shape. And here we have an opportunity to get into the boat pose. I like to hold my hands under the backs of my legs first, getting into a very strong boat pose like this, before then holding my hands and arms parallel to the ground for a more traditional boat pose. And you may want to scissor your legs and feet for a moment to get an additional benefit for your core strength. And then we're going to lay down on our backs, stretching out long. Plant both feet onto the floor, knees bent. You may want to hold a block or a pillow in between your knees, and possibly another one on each side of you, to allow your knees to fall to the right. Arms are in a T, Focusing your gaze out over your left fingertips. And slowly rotate your head and neck to look out the other direction over your right shoulder and fingertips. Then back again, looking out over your left shoulder and fingertips again. And then head and neck back to neutral. Bring your knees up to neutral. And then allow those knees to fall to the left, still with the arms in a T, gazing out over your right fingertips. And slowly turn your head to be looking to your left side, over your left shoulder and out over your left fingertips. Slowly returning the gaze to be looking back out over the right shoulder and fingertips. And then slowly back to neutral. Knees back to neutral. Remove any props and hug in both of your knees, bending your head and neck towards your knees. Engage your feet, flex your heels, point your toes, rotate those ankles. And then we're going to plant both feet firmly on the mat again. Raising your right knee high, placing that right leg over the left knee. Arms are in a T. Allow your legs to fall to the right. This is our last twist. It's my absolute favorite one. Call it the grand finale. Gazing out over your left fingertips. Really let go of all that stress and tension. Then as you bring your knees back up to neutral, you can undo those knees, hugging them into your chest, rocking and rolling. Before firmly planting both feet back onto the mat again for the other side, lifting your left knee to bend it over the right knee and allowing those legs to fall to the left side. Your arms are still in that T with your gaze out over your right fingertips. When you're ready, you can bring your knees to neutral, hugging in both knees. One more time, rocking and rolling. And then if you would like to, you have an option here for the happy baby. You can reach for your feet or your big toes. You can rock the baby maybe alternating, straightening and slightly bending each knee. Coming out of that form, we'll lay flat and then reach for a block for supported bridge, planting both feet firmly on the mat, lifting the hips, slide the block under the small of your back on its lowest level, relaxing the small of your back into the block for the supported bridge. Arms are at your sides, palms facing up. And then while still on the block, you can reach for your strap, or you can do legs up the wall without your strap. If you have your strap, get the canvas to go across the balls of both feet, and we'll get into legs up the wall. Again, you can alternate straightening and bending each knee, pedaling your legs out if you wish. You can have your legs straightened, you can have your knees slightly bent. Mix it up, yogi's choice, whatever you're comfortable with. Remaining in legs up the wall. When you're done, you can remove the block and set the strap aside. If it's in your practice, there's an option here for a shoulder stand and the plow. You can take a couple of minutes to do these, or yogi's choice, any stretch you would like to do to feel complete in your practice, or feel free to get into Savasana early and we can meet you there. Should you be in a shoulder stand, you may want to point your toes tall. You might want to flex your heels. You might want to bend one knee and then the other, or scissoring your legs. Any movements that you're inclined to do before then transitioning into the plow. And when you're coming out of the plow with your chin tucked, slow and controlled, one vertebrae at a time, roll yourself down onto the mat to relax into Savasana. Remember the intentions that you set at the beginning of this practice. Thank yourself for taking this time out of your day to focus on yourself and your well-being. As we bring our awareness back into the room, into our bodies, when you're ready, you can slowly roll to one side or the other and just rest there for a moment. Then you can slowly push yourself up, or if you would rather, you have the option with your chin tucked just to come up onto your elbows behind yourself, slightly rocking, straightening your arms out behind you to come up. Either way, we're going to transition into easy pose. Placing your left hand on your right knee, your right hand on the floor behind you. Lightly twist to the right. Before then, lifting your right arm over your left and crossing it to have your right hand onto your left knee. And then reaching your left hand behind you for a light twist to the left. And then lifting that left arm over the right arm, and then reaching the left hand for the right knee. Then we will lightly hug ourselves in this basket shape. And then transitioning into hugging yourself as tightly as you can, making yourself into as small of a ball or a seedling as you are able to, constricting yourself to take up as little space as possible. Before then, releasing your arms out, up wide to the sides into a star shape, and then placing each hand onto each of your knees, touching the pointer fingers to your thumbs, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. We will chant Om 3 times in a low pitch as we breathe out. Then stretching your arms out wide again for that half moon arch. Bring your arms up overhead to prayer hands. And then to acknowledge your insight and wisdom, touch your thumbs or knuckles to your third eye on the way to hands over heart, prayer hands over heart. Reaching your arms out wide to the sides once more for one last half moon arch. Prayer hands overhead, and then slowly lowering those prayer hands over heart. Before then, bowing to close and seal this practice. And so it is. I thank you once again for practicing with me today. Be well. Enjoy a very blessed rest of your day. Be sure to drink your water and eat nourishing foods, high protein, lots of veggies. Love and light. See you on the next one. Thank you for joining me for yoga today. See you soon. Have a great one.